This video is a elevator pitch for the implementation of a certificate in civil engineering, which would be delivered using micro-credentials. So what is proposed is that the first half of the NZDE would be turned into a level 5 certificate, either or. So it could be the first year of the NZDE, or it could be level 5 certificate, which then moves on to the NZDE. It would be a full-time or a part-time course, and the focus of the certificate would be that it provides work-ready focus. Students, the aim of the content of the course is entirely focused on producing the skills and knowledge required to work in the industry as soon as possible. As I said, it would be the first half of the NZDE, and it would be delivered using micro-credentials. The reasons for that would be that it allows more flexibility. So using micro-credentials, you don't have to do the whole maths course before you can do the structures course. You can do the maths that is required for the structures course as a micro-credential, and then you could do the structures course. Or, as I propose in option 2 later on, we have the maths embedded in the structures course. So micro-credentials allow us to structure the course in much finer detail to meet the needs of the student and the industry they're working in or the job they're doing. So manageable size courses. The other thing about it is if you want to get people into engineering, people that wouldn't normally go in there, you need to encourage them, get them started, and having a manageable size course is the way to do it. A small course, you do that, you find you can do it, and then you just keep on going. Regular achievement, you are seeing progress moving towards your goal of getting the certificate, and at the same time realizing that you are developing a set of usable skills. And a flexible sequence. So as I said, to be able to match the credentials, the content that is being learnt to the needs of the student, either in work or the interests of the student. What interests them? They just pick away at what they find interesting. Either way, they're going to be learning engineering and hopefully going to be able to enter the civil engineering industry. I will emphasize that this is for civil engineering. I haven't really looked at electrical or mechanical. My view is that each of those subjects should be separate. So we could roll it out, but really the course I'm proposing here is exclusively for civil engineering. I think the current problem with the NZDE is it's trying to cover the whole range of industries, and my view is that we need to be focusing on the civil engineering industry for the civil engineering qualification, and that's what this presentation is about. So the format would be each micro-credential would be 3 NZDE credits, which mean there would be 5 credentials, I spelled that wrong, per NZDE course. That means there's 30 hours per credential. So the amount of time for the 5 credentials that make up the course would be 150 hours, which is what is required for the NZDE, and obviously 5 credentials at 3 credits each give you 15 credits, which is what the NZDE courses do as well. So it matches up with the NZDE very closely. I think it is important that we provide flexibility, that we use that there are opportunities offered by micro-credentials to provide a lot of flexibility to encourage people into doing the course. So they start the course when they wish, they work at their own pace, there's no timetable. The content will be free and online, so I'm suggesting we adopt the MOOC type approach where you provide the content free, students work through the content and they pay for the assessment. There'll be videos and readings, whatever is required to acquire the knowledge. But also I think the wide use of online industry websites such as the NZTA site, the WorkSafe site, the council engineering standards, all those sort of things, I think they need to be integrated into it so that the students are working with authentic documents. They're working with the documents they would use as engineers, and the activities that they would be doing would be related to activities that engineers do. So they would be learning by doing rather than learning theoretical ideas. There would need to be some sort of support, and how that support is structured comes down to your budget. If we could have tutors answering every question, that would be great, or we could set up online forums where students answer each other's questions, but given that they might all be doing different things, that might not be viable. So some sort of support system needs to be in place. In addition to the information in the micro-credentials, there might need to be a library of support material like basic maths concepts, basic science concepts, which are linked to the micro-credentials. So if the student is having trouble, they say they can flip to they can link to something that's going to give them that information when they need it. So the micro-credentials would all be cross-linked. They would link into information the student wants, so the student would have a lot of options. If you don't understand this, go to this link here, and that'll give you the information. And it might even link to external things like the Khan Academy and other online resources. There will need to be some lab sessions. So for example, surveying will require 2-3 days working in the field. Geotech would require that as well. And those would have to be set times. You can't just have one student sort of coming along and someone opening the lab just for them. There would need to be set times for the different labs, and it could be that we rotate those through the text. So someone could do the surveying lab classes at Wintech and then come up to Unitech for the Geotech. It might have to be very, very flexible between the techs to allow people to get that hands-on training with actual equipment. So how would we assess that? That's going to be one of the issues. The assessment has to be proper. We have to make sure that it is the student's work, that the assessment of the micro-credential is actually a demonstration of the student's ability. As I said, the payment should be for the assessment rather than for accessing the content. As they're going through, I think there should be some quizzes as they go in adaptive mode, so the student is learning from the quizzes. But the assessment would really be a project that they would be given related to the micro-credential being studied. It would be an authentic activity. And at the end of the project they can make a decision, is this good enough for me to submit? And that's when they pay the money. And then the marker would look at it, and it might be that the marker makes comments, suggests changes and stuff like that, provides some feedback, and then the student does the work and resubmits it. Or it could be they just submit it and then it's marked. The thing that needs to happen is we need to make sure that the student is doing their own work, that they're not just copying someone else's work, that they're not sort of being helped too much by someone else, or that they haven't got someone else to do it. And the way I propose to do that is with an interview. There will be a face-to-face or Skype interview between the project marker and the student, and this will be 10 to 15 minutes where the marker will ask them about what they have submitted in their project. They will be talking about whatever calculations they might have done. And that what the marker will be trying to do is ascertain whether the student actually understands what they've put in their own project. If the student has done their own work, then they will be able to answer the questions the marker asks. The marker will only be asking about what the student has put in his project. He won't be asking other questions. The project will be given a mark. So if it's an average assignment, then the student's just going to get an average mark. The marker, after the interview, will decide how much of the student's assignment is the student's own work. So he might, most times, they will find, yes, it is the student's own work. He's done an average job, but it's all his own work, so therefore he gets 100% of that project mark. Or he might say, well, look, he's only understood half of what he presented here, so I'm going to give him 50%, and he'll probably fail with that, even if he's got a good mark. So the way that the marking happens is it's the project mark times by the percentage from the interview. And most of the time, my experience when doing this is most students are quite honest when they know that that's the way it works, and it is their own work. But it will provide industry, it will provide the people that are accrediting it with the confidence that the micro-credential is an actual indicator of the student's ability. And notice that there is no exam. There's no set exam time or anything like that. We don't need it when we take that approach. So how do we do this? Unfortunately, the NZDE structure as it stands now is not suitable for this approach. It was developed as a dumbed down university course. In a university course, the students start with engineering science and broad engineering mathematics and stuff like that, and then they gradually move into their specification. With a vocational course, you need to start how you intend to finish. In other words, you are focusing on the civil engineering industry. If the course is for the civil engineering industry, that is what it focuses on from the start, and that's what needs to happen with this NZDE curriculum. And so what's happened here is I'm suggesting some changes to the curriculum. There are a few courses that have been changed from compulsory to mandatory because they are more broad type of subjects. Engineering fundamentals, for example, covers a whole lot of stuff that's irrelevant to civil engineering. So I suggest that we take that out and we study the stuff that is relevant to engineering in much more detail, so the students are developing much better skills in those areas that are relevant to what they are supposed to do. I'm suggesting the introduction of two courses here. The first one, Civil Engineering Practice, provides the big picture view of the whole of civil engineering, so that the students understand how everything all fits together right at the start. It would also be another micro-credential in that course, that stack if you like, would be soft skills, time management, problem solving, critical thinking. Another one would be basic construction. What are the different types of projects that we do as civil engineers, so that the following courses can all have authentic assessment. You can't really assess someone on a project management if you don't have a civil engineering project to give them to manage. And that would be what that course would be. It would give that basic knowledge to allow all the later stuff to be authentic. So my view is that that would be a compulsory course. It should be something that happens early on. The next one is infrastructure design, and that is basically just using council engineering standards to do infrastructure design, water, roading, and water, roading, wastewater, and stormwater. And that's been put in there so that we can make two of the existing compulsory courses optional, and that frees up room for us to be able to put these two courses in. And I think it would also improve it. It would mean that the students are getting the skills they need for actual practice rather than the background theoretical skills. They can still do the two courses that are proposed to be changed in the status, highways and hydraulics, but they would do it as part of an option rather than a compulsory part of the course. So once the student has actually done these, or as they do this, they actually start developing skills. So they could sort of do a couple here and the land surveying, and they'd come out as enough skills to be able to do a survey assistant job. If they do the civil practice, maybe the construction practices, they've got the basic skills to be a site engineer. So pick and mixing these things together means that you are preparing them for entry-level roles in each one of these types of roles in the civil engineering industry. And these are all quite prominent roles in the industry. Auckland needs a whole lot of infrastructure designers. It needs site engineers. So these are roles that are important and that we are presently lacking in the workforce. With that change in the NZDE curriculum, we would still have enough credits for the level 5 certificate, so we can make a level 5 certificate. Remember, these things can cross over. You can do this as part of the certificate or part of the NZDE. And the level 6 diploma, the NZDE, still has enough credits for it to be the NZDE as well. So it all works. And one last concept I'd like to introduce here is a different version, option 2, and this is where we take the maths and the engineering science subjects and we embed them into the practice subjects. In other words, for doing land surveying, instead of doing a maths course which has some of the land surveying maths in it, you do the land surveying maths as one of the micro-credentials in the land surveying course. So the land surveying course would be 5 micro-credentials. The first one would be the maths and science underlying it. You need to do that one first, and then you've got a choice of doing the other 4, which might be levelling, topographical surveys, GIS or site set out. So they could do those in any order, but they need to do that first one. So some of the micro-credentials would have to be done in a sequence, usually the first of each stack, if you like. And once again, I think this would prepare them better. It would also make each one of the micro-credentials more self-contained and much easier for someone to actually do them without do them by themselves without with less help than they would need otherwise. So I've split some of my courses together, and as I went through it, I sort of found that I could split the courses into 5s. So it seems to work. It worked with the construction practices, worked with engineering management. And just to give you an example of the opportunities, I think domestic students can do a try before you buy. They can try out the courses, see if they like it, and if they do, then they might come to tech. So when they leave school, they might sort of over December, dip in and have a look, and it will get people interested. Secondary schools could combine them, so they could take the credentials, micro-credentials, and mix and match. They could do the construction practices one, engineering management one, they could do the surveying one, and they could sort of put together a full year course. Or they could integrate any one of the micro-credentials into their actual NCEA courses. Engineering companies could hire students straight from school and then use the micro-credentials to target the knowledge they need. And so they can gradually build their responsibilities as the micro-credentials provide the knowledge they need. Existing workers, so someone working on a digger or working in a digging trenches and stuff like that, could just nickel and dime it, just do a micro-credential every 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And after 3 years they would have accumulated enough to get a certificate. And they would also have the knowledge and skills to be able to take a step up, to get that promotion, to become a supervisor or a site engineer if they're working in construction. And international students can try the micro-credentials before they commit. They can try learning the subject of engineering in English before they commit to the massive financial outlay that's involved in coming over to New Zealand to do a course. And I find that a lot of my students, they struggle. They didn't understand how hard it was going to be. And I think if they've got a few micro-credentials under their belts before they come, they're going to be just that little bit better prepared. And here's one example, the mixing and matching, the micro-credentials. So for example, someone working full-time on a building site, nickel and diming it to get a certificate, or it could be a student that's just started working for a construction company. So you'd start with those civil engineering practice, you'd put in the first module of the construction practices, the engineering management principles. So here they will have, with those 5 micro-credentials, they'd have a pretty good idea of the way the engineering industry works. And then they can start adding in skill sets that they need. Now it might be that if it's someone that's experienced on site, things like construction practices overview, this person here might have enough knowledge to actually just go straight into the interview and sit down with the marker and discuss the course content and stuff like that, and the marker may decide that they're going to credit them with that micro-credential. So I think micro-credentials offer us the flexibility to broaden what we do, to offer it to a lot more people, and to actually make the whole NZDE a much better qualification, which is more focused on industry and allows students to get out there and start working much sooner than what they do now.